The wind howled over the empty prairie, carrying the smell of gunpowder and death. Eli Carson rode slow through the twilight, his hat low, his eyes squinting against the dying light. The land stretched endless, a sea of gold and gray, broken only by the smoldering wreck of a stagecoach half a mile ahead. Vultures circled already, black dots against the fading sun. He knew what he'd find before he got there. He'd seen it before too many times. The West had no shortage of cruelty. When he reached the coach, he dismounted quietly. The horses lay tangled in their harnesses, one still kicking weakly. He drew his pistol, whispered an apology, and ended its suffering. The silence afterward was heavier than gunfire. Bodies were scattered in the dust. A driver slumped across the wheel. Two guards lying face down beside the wagon. Whoever hit them had done it fast and brutally. It took everything of value and left the rest to rot. Eli knelt beside one man and lifted his head gently. Throat cut, not Indians. The cuts were too clean, too deliberate. He knew the kind of men who did this. He started to move on when he heard Ida faint, like wind through grass. A sound that didn't belong. A breath, a whimper. He froze, hand near his revolver. Then he heard it again, a soft voice, shaking, near the overturned coach. He approached slowly, pushing aside broken wood and torn fabric until he saw her. A woman lay there, maybe 20, her dress soaked through with blood and dirt. Her face was paled, her eyes glassy but alive. She was trembling uncontrollably. "Ma'am," Eli said softly. "You're safe now. Can you hear me?" Her lips moved, dry and cracked. "A broken bar." They took everything a broken bar. He knelt beside her, unrolling his canteen. "Don't talk. Here, drink a little." She tried, coughed, and spilled most of it, but the effort sparked something behind her eyes, a flicker of life. Eli tore a strip of cloth from his saddlebag and pressed it to the wound on her side. She winced sharply and whispered, "It hurts. A broken bar down there too." He looked at her, unsure for a moment what she meant. Then he saw the blood soaking the lower part of her dress. His stomach tightened. He'd seen plenty of gunshot wounds, knife cuts, and whip marks, but this was something worse. He needed to stop the bleeding fast. "I need to see where you're hurt," he said quietly, trying to keep his voice steady. "I ain't gonna harm you, ma'am. Just patch you up enough to get you to town." She gave the slightest nod. Her hands were shaking. Eli took his knife, cut through the fabric carefully, just enough to see the damage. He'd expected a wound. What he found made him freeze. It wasn't just torn skin up, it was burned, branded, a small symbol, still red and swollen, seared into the flesh just above her hip. A circle with a slash through it, a simple, cruel, and unforgettable. His heart lurched. He'd seen that mark before, years ago, on the chest of a man dying in the dirt after a gunfight that took his wife's life. For a long moment, Eli couldn't breathe. He could almost see her again, Martha, standing in the doorway, smiling, then falling as the gang rode through like devils. That same symbol burned into their saddlebags. He'd never found them all. He thought the rest were dead. He'd been wrong. The woman moaned softly, dragging him back to the present. Eli tore off his coat and covered her. "You're gonna be all right," he murmured, though the lie burned his tongue. "You know who did this?" She shook her head weakly. "Masks a broken bar, black coats a broken bar, one had a scar here, a broken bar." She pointed shakily at her neck. "They's a broken bar," they said. "The circle owns the land now, a broken bar." Eli felt a coldness crawl up his spine. The circle, that's what they called themselves once. A group of outlaws turned land barons, spreading through the territories, taking ranches, towns, lives, and now they were back. He looked around. Tracks led west to 3 horses, maybe 4, heavy with weight. They weren't in a hurry. They thought no one would come after them. They were wrong. Eli lifted the woman carefully, cradling her in his arms. She gasped in pain, clutching his shirt, whispering something he couldn't catch. He laid her gently across his horse and tied her in place. "You hang on now," he said. "I'll get you to safety." The nearest doctor was 30 miles away, across rough country. He rode through the night, his jaw tight, every hoofbeat echoing like a heartbeat. The moon rose full and cold, washing the land in silver. Coyotes howled in the distance. He pushed on. Once, near midnight, she stirred and whispered, Why are you helping me?" He looked ahead into the dark. "Because someone helped my wife once, and I wasn't there to return the favor." She said nothing more. By dawn, they reached a small cabin at Eli's old line shack by the river. He carried her inside, laid her on his bed, and stoked the fire. Her breathing was shallow, her skin pale as chalk. He cleaned her wounds as best he could with whiskey and boiled cloth. She cried softly but didn't pull away. When he finished, he sat back, staring at the mark again. That burn symbol seemed to mock him. All these years he'd tried to leave the past buried, and now it was staring him in the face again, carved into the flesh of an innocent. He poured a shot of whiskey, but his hand trembled too much to drink it. Outside, the world was waking up. Birds calling, the sun spilling over the hills. But for Eli Carson, the morning felt like the beginning of something dark. The woman finally slept, her chest rising and falling unevenly. Eli stepped outside, took his rifle, and checked the chamber. He looked west, where the tracks disappeared beyond the ridgeline. He'd buried his guns once, swore never to use them again after Martha died. But the past wasn't done with him. He found himself whispering her name to the wind, like a prayer. "Martha Broken Bar, I think I found A.M." By noon he was on the trail again. The woman needed help, but she needed justice more. He'd leave her supplies, come back after he found the men who did it. Each mile he rode, the world grew smaller, tighter, until all that existed was the rhythm of hooves and the burn of vengeance in his chest. He found their camp by sundown, a canyon tucked behind a cluster of cottonwoods. 4 men sat around a fire, laughing, bottles in hand, like the world had no consequence. One of them wore a black coat with a slash mark stitched into the sleeve. Another had a scar on his neck. Eli watched from the ridge, his breath slow and steady. The rifle felt alive in his hands. He could end it from here, quick and clean, but he wanted them to see him first, to know why they were dying. He moved down silently, using the rocks for cover. When he stepped into the firelight, they froze. "Even in," he said. His voice was low, calm, deadly. The man with the scar reached for his gun. Eli fired once. The shot echoed through the canyon, and the man dropped before he could draw. The others scrambled, shouting. Another bullet. Another body fell. The third man ran for the horses, but Eli's aim didn't falter. When the smoke cleared, only one remained, the oldest, gray at the temples, eyes wide with terror. "You don't know what you're doing, mister," he stammered. "You kill me, the circle hunt you till the end of days." Eli stepped closer. They already did. He raised the rifle, hesitated for a breath, then lowered it. "You tell whoever's left Eli Carson's coming, and this time, I ain't stopping." He turned and walked back toward his horse, the fire crackling behind him, the prairie wind carrying away the echoes of gunfire. Somewhere far behind, in a lonely cabin by the river, a young woman was breathing easier. The nightmare wasn't over, but the tide had turned, and as the moon rose again over the cold frontier, Eli Carson rode not toward vengeance, toward memory, and toward whatever justice a broken man could still find at the edge of the world.